also read somewhere that the work you do, it's also dealing with social norms on one side and individual desires on the other. Do you, yeah.
Well, this is something that every person has to deal with on one level or another, and our whole existence consists of clashes between love and hate and personal desires and societal norms and restrictions. And I think to find that balance when you feel like yourself and when you feel comfortable in your own skin is the most difficult thing for every individual, whether you're gay or straight or it's not about sexuality, it's about just finding your true self and being honest with yourself more than with others around you. And early on, I decided that like coming out was never a problem for me, even though I grew up in an extremely homophobic society that may be as bad or worse than Serbia. And it was never an issue for me because I felt that if my family and my friends cannot accept me for who I am, then they're not my family and not my friends. It's as simple as that. So you find, you create your own environment and you create your own life the way you feel like, not what people tell you. And that's, it sounds very simple, but it's also the most difficult thing.
I will jump now to Slovenian situation. We previously had a case of family law, and we had referendum on this family law because it was controversial for Slovenia because they wanted that gay or homosexual couples can adopt children.
Right.
And the referendum didn't go through. And now my question is, on one point we were talking that the homosexuals didn't come out and stand for the rights, That
Right.
this is the public personalities and stuff like this. How important is for you this question of public personalities to come out to represent the rights of homosexuals?
Well, it's not a matter of gay rights or sexual minorities. It's just a matter of basic human rights. And I think in the 21st century, it's just something that should be universally accepted. And luckily we live in a rapidly changing society when this situation is slowly improving. And in some countries, you know, it's much more liberal. But I also live in New York, and the United States is far from being liberal in terms of the whole situation with gay marriage and equal rights. And perfect example is my boyfriend and I have been together for almost 8 years, and we still not recognized as a couple by the state. So we taxed as if we were single. So we have to pay double taxes. So we've been punished, double punished. First of all, we're not recognized as a valid couple. And it's not about just that we would want to get married, but I would like to have that option, and just financial, it's a burden, because you essentially being punished for your lifestyle and your nature, which is, I find it really, really oppressive and completely unjustified. So, obviously in Serbia, where the situation is much worse, it's one of those things that should change and will change no matter what. But just also based on, an experience that I went through in Russia with all the persecution and harassment and death threats that I personally attracted by my writings and activism and my position as one of few openly gay people. This is something that, I hope my legacy will be carried on by other people. But again, just looking at the recent election results, the situation is going worse instead of improving. So, I want to be cautiously optimistic and recognizing the importance of this issue for any countries that want to be considered civilized societies, you know. I think this is a very, very good indicator of how progressive and liberal and tolerant the society in fact is. So, of course, public opinion is a crucial element of this situation, because in Russia, for example, there's a recent poll where half of the people participated in this opinion poll. They think that homosexuals should be either isolated or hospitalized, or essentially they're still considered as a deviation of psychological pathology of sorts, you know. So this is like a completely outdated public opinion, just from the point of view even of, whatever studies have been conducted. In America, homosexuality was considered a psychiatric condition up until early 70s, even after Stonewall, just to give you an example,
Did you had to leave Russia in '95, right? And you came back in 2000. Where?
Yeah, I was in exile for 5 years without any chance of being able to go back. But after the regime change, when Yeltsin was gone and Putin came in power, there was a short period of seemingly improved situation. Was
That's why I wanted to ask. That's what I wanted to ask, because you came back when Putin came, but now from today's point of view.
What happened is that it was just a legality of my status that allowed me to, essentially the old criminal case was dismissed, because when Putin was gone, the entire power structure has changed, and my criminal case was dismissed because, the old prosecutor was no longer there. It was just a bureaucratic process that allowed me to go back. But
it was not about Putin's openness.
No, not at all. I mean, I'm sure, I made enough enemies on many levels, from the media to, to politicians, like Auchen Zhirinovsky obviously didn't help, but also the fact that, still, it's, by any means, it's not safe for me to go back there. I haven't been back in over 7 years, even though
so hard.
Well, I mean, on one hand, I don't have any projects coming up there, and I'm quite busy with my work in New York and elsewhere, and I'm always much more excited about going to new places rather than going back to Russia, because to me it seems kind of, it's not nearly as interesting. From the artistic perspective, it's not very exciting for me to go back there. I mean, I can always do good pictures there, but I don't think there's an audience that accepts me as an artist. Still, people mostly remember my activism, my journalism, my poetry.
The next question: how well do you live with your earnings from your job?
Well, it's interesting, yeah, because someone else was just asking it, and this, art kid who saw my presentation and said that what I do is very inspiring, but he asked if I actually make my living with my art, and I must say that I consider myself lucky, because I do make my entire living from art. I don't have a day job. I do it full time. It's not a hobby for me, and I don't take it lightly. It's my passion, my life, my main interest in life, and I pretty much dedicated my whole life to it. So after years and years of I was doing writings professionally for 15 years before switching full-time to photography, but I was always taking pictures. So it didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen over a few years. It's years and years of hard work that finally paying off, and I feel like I'm getting the kind of recognition that I was always hoping for, and my work has been exhibited in some important museums, which again, years ago, if someone would tell me that I will be showing in all these amazing institutions, I would just think it's not going to be possible, because again, I never compromised, and uh, uh, I never did something just in order to further my career. I'm not a career artist. I do it because I have to, and my goal in life remains is to, to express myself in the most honest and radical way. And I
Why
keep
so?
this promise to myself.
Yeah, just now really the last question. Why so shocking way? Why so radical way?
Well, first of all,
Because
not
sometimes
all
you
my
need
work
to
is.
say,
First of all, not my work is shocking, but
Yeah.
ironically, it's human nature that people tend to remember shocking images more than the images that were next to it. I am known for a lot of nudity and explicit subject matter, and I did a series of German skinheads and urinating on each other and spitting and stuff that like guys sticking things up their butts and stuff. But that again, first of all, this is something I did early on when I did have this urge to shock and provoke the society, and I certainly did it a lot in my teens and my early 20s, but it was a necessary mode of behavior, because I really felt like I was in such extreme homophobic. I was in such an extreme situation, being surrounded by homophobes, that I really had to show my teeth to them. That I'm dangerous. I'm aggressive. I didn't want to be portrayed as a victim. And that was something that was highly unusual, because traditional Russian perception of a homosexual person is someone effeminate, someone who is a victim, who deserves pity, and and can be kicked and killed and beaten to death. And I had muscles, I had tattoos, I had I would often get into fights when I was the one who was beating people up, so people didn't want to fuck with me, and I think it worked, because I think I gained a lot of respect from people who weren't gay and who had this wrong and kind of distorted perception of gay people that was ultimately shaped by the prison mentality that is so common in Russia, because there's so many people that went through the Gulag system. And traditionally, homosexuals were the lowest caste of that prison hierarchy. I even did a research article called "Gay in the Gulag," which you can find on my website, and it was published in English and Russian. But it was very interesting. Personally, for me, it was just interesting to find the roots of homophobia in the Russian psyche, and they come from Gulag. There's no question about it. So that whole mentality is still dominating public opinion, and I find it really scary and ironic, considering that this is something that most Russians want to leave behind. Yet this is one stereotype that they just don't want to give up, and this is this strong homophobic sentiment. But again, going back to your question, I just think that provocation is absolutely necessary. Shock and provocation and aggression even is an absolutely necessary tactic. Some people call me militant queer for that reason, and I think it's a compliment, because I'd rather be militant queer than be like a gay victim again.